So a little history about this presentation. By the way, this presentation was done before Copilot had been fully integrated into PowerPoint. Otherwise, I probably would have tried it. Has anyone here used like any of the Office 365 features? Okay. It's been interesting. It has been quite the journey to see Microsoft improve them. Because when it first came out, it really didn't do much. Um, and I laugh because I don't know if you can do it if they fix this in Word yet, but when you would if you ask Word to do something to your document, it'll say, "I'm sorry, I have no access to change your document." But you can copy and paste what I've built here for you into your document. And as a software engineer, I'm like, hold up. Aren't you built into Word? So anyway, so what I'm going to talk about today is AI in your everyday. My name's Rahimzadeh. I'm a principal software architect at Momentum 3. We're a consulting firm out of Tulsa. I live and work locally. I did not fly out here. Um, Although I do enjoy going to Tulsa. There's a lot of great food, great people. Uh, it's pretty cool. I'll probably go out there in a few weeks. We'll find out. Anyway, I built this presentation, like I said, a few months ago, or pardon me, last year, to talk about AI and how you use it when you're not doing development. But circumstances have really changed just in the past. I think I wrote it for November of last year, and now I definitely have to talk about what has changed in how we use AI as developers every day. But I'm still going to talk about the things that I was going to talk about in the original presentation, and then I will get into local LLMs. That's kind of new and real now, and then also affordability. So I'm curious of the people who are uh, um, online. How many of you, and of course the people here, how many people here use the AI that's built into your IDE? Sometimes, but everyone here has basically said that they use it. Okay, and we have what, two people here? Three people. Okay, now how many people uh, instead of using the one in the IDE, use Chat GPT or something like that to look things up? Okay. No one online. We got 5 people here. Just so everyone knows, we've got about 9, 10 people in person here. Oh, okay. Got it. Okay, so I'm gonna bring up the chat so I can actually see what you guys are saying. Okay, so Gagan says, "Oh wow, there's a lot of messages that came through." Okay, Ed's been using Gemini and Copilot for free. Uh, Okay, so using chat more. Okay, so this is kind of interesting. Uh, as a developer, I kind of swap between both of them, but I really rarely use uh, the Chat GPT. But I'm a Microsoft guy, like, and I've kind of used like the Chat GPT stuff, and it's really slow. Is that just me? Like Chat GPT, the more you use it, it gets slower and slower and slower and slower and slower. Um, I don't know what that's all. Oh, Jennifer, thank you. That Sandy check. Yeah, I'm like, oh my gosh. Um, but I tend to uh, kind of go both ways. But for code, I'm almost always using the IDE. Uh, Although I have found one way to get around a ton of token usage is to use Copilot that's built into Windows 11, and it'll actually scaffold out entire plans and everything for you at the much lower cost and then I can bring, yeah, effectively zero, or your enterprise is paying for it, right? Because it's just part of, you know, Microsoft 365. Um, and then I can paste that in, and now I've paid a lot less money for the planning. So not that I think you should, yeah, I mean anything you can do to save money today, I guess is a good thing. Um, anyway, so I already asked everyone. By the way, I usually on this talk, although I've expanded it a bit, I usually have kind of like a campfire discussion at the end. So if you have questions, definitely ask. Heads up, I only have the screen in front of me with the slides, so it might take me a little bit to see your questions. Does anyone have their? No one else has their laptop, so uh, feel free. Like if you want to like come off mute and ask me a question while I'm talking, that's okay. I don't mind being interrupted. Just make sure when you're done talking, mute again, because some people are in their cars or have family in the background talking about other stuff. And there have been fun conversations that we have heard. So, anyway, so what is AI? A lot of people here, like, do we all know what AI is? 100%? No? You know, like is hey, really what we use for AI today, right, is LLMs, right? LLMs with harnesses. We're not, it's not really true intelligence. Although, has anyone heard with anyone here heard of Steve Wozniak? Yeah, of course you have. So he was at a commencement speech, I think, and there he says he was talking to all the students and said, "You all have AI, actual intelligence." I thought that was pretty good. I thought it was pretty good. Actual intelligence. And anyone who's actually used AI and dealt with hallucinations and everything, you realize it ain't so smart. It's actually just a very sophisticated prediction model. Yeah, there's we get into the details of how the models are trained, etc. But it's highly mathematic, and it's a prediction model. How related is the next word semantically along this flow, and then that ends up being generated into sentences, to paragraphs, to whatever. And in our case, code, right? Because most of the time, code. Although everything's going AI, kind of fascinating. The cost of it is very fascinating now. Every time you run a query, someone can't flush their toilet in northern Arizona. But that's okay. The costs are coming down. People can flush again. Yay. No, that hasn't happened to you. Okay. Anyway, so and does anyone here know what a token is? Because we talk about tokens all the time, right? All right, what's a token? Well, you raised your hand. That's how they charge you. They charge you by the token. But what is a token? It's the thing that costs money. Yeah.
Isn't it like the conversation that like puts them in the string, but like a Rochester string?
Mm-hmm. So a token, I hesitate to call it a unit of measurement, but it's around 5 characters. Yeah, it's usually part of a word, and that can be used to then relate it to other words. Okay, but it's not always an exact part of a word. This is the problem with code, because words could have like you could fit the entire word like there, but not maybe the compound word any place. That might be split into any in place. But code doesn't really work that way. Code tends to have like variable names that are all run together. Some of those variable names are like 20 characters long. And then you have braces and semicolons, etc. And sometimes, oftentimes, the brace is one token. So if you want to know why your tokens are skyrocketing up, with code especially, it's hard to tokenize it. And then, you use more tokens. It's the way it is. It's kind of like, I kind of like looking at like Vegas money though, when it comes to the billing. Like, has anyone ever stuck like $100 bill in Vegas? It says you have 5,000 credits. So you don't feel bad about spending 250 credits. You just spent $5 or whatever it is.
Like the arcade.
You know?
You get the little tokens.
Yeah. It seems like fake money. This is why you can spend it so easily. And it's kind of fun watching the numbers, fly by. If you use Claude Code, you know what I mean. Anyway, uh, so AI these days, you have context-aware AI. So alongside the LLM, you can actually use your own data. So when you mix your data along with the LLM for the response, does anyone know what that's called? You've probably heard these terms, but never had them connected. That's RAG. So retrieval augmented generation. I got to remember what the R stands for. But the point is, the models are trained to a certain point in time. So once you build that model trained on billions of parameters, if you've looked at models, you know what these are. Once it's trained, it's like you put it in a coma. And that's it. You wake it up, ask it a question. If it was put in a coma in August 2024, it only knows everything up to August 2024. That's it. Then it goes back to sleep. And anything that you told it during your conversation with it is forgotten. Comes back up. It's 2024 again. So if you ever have a chance, go take a look. Go into like Copilot or whatever your model is and say, what is the latest version of .NET that you know of? And a lot of them will tell you .NET 8 or .NET 9. Yeah. But the way it does that is not because of the model. That's RAG. That's RAG and MCPs. Yeah, it's making up for the limitation of LLM. So AI is really these days a combination of utilities and tools, etc. It's not just the LLMs anymore, but the AI that we pay for generally is this LLM setup and getting, put a prompt in, get something out. So what also is AI? And this is something that you run into. It's not an intern. It's not someone who is excited and willing to learn. You really need to treat it like a partner. This hasn't changed since I've been, working with AI now for seriously for like a year. I mean, we've been playing with it now for a few years, but it's only gotten really serious over the last, year and a half. And we'll get into part of that problem. So what I've learned though, treat it like a skilled partner. You're coding with it. You're working with it. And if you just leave it to its own devices, it will make mistakes. But if you're there sanity checking it, great. Now, in today's conversations, I'm going to talk about Copilot and GitHub Copilot. It's not because I hate Claude, Codex, any of that stuff. It's just, this is what I use every day. So your mileage may vary, but I think your mileage is going to be effectively the same as mine. Just the tool you use is different. And I already mentioned this a bit, but how do you go beyond the LLM? And that's really, there's a bunch of ways. One, people say use agents and skills, etc., but those are still relying on other things. to give you additional capabilities. So I think you need to look at MCPs, which lets you call out of the capability of the LLM, go beyond it. And then also RAG, which is where you bring your own data in addition to what the model knows, and combining those two, it can then semantically infer, including your data for those relationships, what the right outcome should be. So that's why when you supplement it with your code, you get fixes to your code. That makes sense? It takes everything it knows and then takes your code, combines it in its thinking process, and then comes up with a result, because your code doesn't exist in its model. All right. Okay. So I wanted to demo a few things. One, and I kind of did this in advance because it takes a while for things to generate. And I don't want to just randomly spend tokens like I could. Last year, you could spend tokens, like they cost nothing. And now it's expensive. I had to sell a house just so I could, write hello world. That's not true. But anyway, one thing that I found on a day-to-day basis, like I said, we're going to talk a little bit about how you won't use, like not using AI for code, but I guess it's tangential to code, is documentation. So one thing that, what's the number one thing that developers hate to write? It's not code, it's documentation, right? They hate writing user stories. Maybe they hate writing tests. Maybe they hate writing any sort of specification. But boy, and they hate writing documentation. But man, do they want documentation. Have you ever noticed that? How many people complain that there's no documentation for this one, API or SDK, etc. But then they themselves will not write documentation for any code they write. Yes, it's a moment to reflect on. But AI takes care of that for you. So one thing AI is very good at writing is prose. And we're just talking about RAG. You can prompt it to look at your code base. And if you've never seen that code before, you can have it write full-on documentation about how does this work, what's the data model, what's the user flow, what's the set of screens, etc. And less than 5 minutes later, you have a document that is effectively a map of the system. And it's not a lot of tokens. Now, to get someone to actually write something like that years ago, even a year ago, maybe, well, let's say 2 years ago, someone will be pedantic about it. What would you do? You'd bring up Visio or Draw.io, draw of your diagrams. How many people have done that? Right? And then you write up some notes about what you see as you go through the solution explorer. You're like, well, this is probably, I looked at some of the scripts, so it's probably running like these frameworks. And you'll come up with like a half page to a page of what you think is going on. And then you'll have spent like 2 hours writing like the ugliest freaking Visio diagram you can imagine. And you never want to go back into Visio because every time you need to change one thing, you got to rearrange all the blocks. Right? How many people have done that? I know I have in all my years. You guys haven't? It's amazing. You have like secretaries, and it's awesome. I love it. We got like 4 Elon Musks over here. So anyway, no, okay. You could be the first trillionaire. He will be. Anyway, so anyway, AI completely changes the game when it comes to, and without writing any code. when it comes to documentation and to understanding code bases, absolutely 100% changes the game. Because with a single prompt, and I'll just stop sharing my screen. I'll just share my whole screen. Boop, boop, boop. And I'll just say architectural request prompt. Okay. Can everyone see my screen? So here's a prompt. And I wrote some code today. Everyone here knows what GitHub Copilot is, I imagine. We're at the Indy.net Consortium Meetup. Everyone here knows what GitHub Copilot is. Okay, yay. And across our team, we have a lot of people using GitHub Copilot. Now, how many people know about what happened on June 1st with GitHub Copilot? Yes, 1, 2 people, 3. That's the price. Well, it's not a price increase. They just changed their pricing model. Right? Yeah, we'll get into this a little bit when it comes to the cost part. But for those who don't know, I imagine you all do, Microsoft went from premium request units, PRUs, which everyone, by the way, was abusing. Don't tell me you weren't. When you could go and use like Sonnet and even Opus 4.7 at like 3x PRUs. Because PRUs, it let you do a massive amount of work. Was it 4.6 that was 3? Okay, you're right. That was the one that was 7x, right? Was that this? Oh my gosh, 15? Oh, well, the point is you could use a PRU. And a PRU, you could allowed you to have effectively unlimited tokens as long as it was part of that one PRU that got executed. And people took advantage of that. This was especially helpful with plans. You saved a lot of money. So now Microsoft has changed it. There are no more PRUs. They're simplifying the model, simplify. But they're not switching to tokens. No, my friends. They're switching to AI credits, AICs. So instead of TOKs, they're going to AICs. But they assigned a dollar amount to it. Unlike Anthropic, I don't think is assigned a dollar amount. Tokens are tokens. Effectively, a token is an AI credit, and it's valued at like 1 penny. Or like, what was it? There's a certain number of I don't remember what the math of it was, but there's a penny involved. Like maybe it's like 100 tokens for a penny. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's still all funny money. I call it Vegas money. Like I said, it's like putting $100 in, seeing 5,000 credits or tokens or whatever you want to call them. And, maybe it says 1,000,000 tokens. Still $100. You spend 200,000, tokens. You've spent $20. That's what's happened. But look how much I got for $100. No, you got $100. You got $20 worth of something. Anyway. Point is, documentation and the excuse not to write it is gone with AI because you can insanely cost effectively write documentation and have it live and grow alongside your project automatically for literally pennies. You have a technical writer that's effectively working for free. That every time you make a non-trivial change to your code base, it will automatically update your documentation. So this is a prompt I added. I'm sure I don't think I'm handing out anything that's some crazy IP because I wrote this. And I'll bet other people have written similar things. But here's the prompt. By the way, did I tell you I'm GitHub certified now? I think I told some people. Yeah, I'm a GitHub Copilot certified, whatever. But there we go. I can put that on my resume. So, as a software architect familiar with insert whatever your stack is here, create an architecture document named Architecture MD with the following information. Examples: table of contents, a revision history, patterns in tech, screen flows, authentication details, a glossary, key architectural takeaways. You can look at all the items and read them, all up to you. And I'm happy to send anyone a copy of this prompt. Use mermaid diagrams where necessary. How many people know what mermaid is? Okay, mermaid is a standard markup language, kind of like Markdown or XML, etc. That is for diagrams. You'll never have to build another Visio diagram again. And it'll be accurate and automatically updated for you. Oh, how happy are we? Then I always ask it this: ask me any questions, clarify any assumptions. Anyone know why that's important? Remember what I said. Treat it as a partner, not an intern. And you should always have, if you're working with somebody else, they should ask you questions and clarify their assumptions before they do anything. You're working together. So you would want that out of that relationship, right? You wouldn't want them to just go do the work and you got to read it all and then find their mistakes. Have them clarify the issues to you up front. And now you've made sure that there's a lot less mental gymnastics you're going to have to do reviewing the work. The other one that's added there, this is incredibly important and also insanely helpful. Update this document anytime a non-trivial change is being made. So if I just change some variable names, it's trivial. I change some key functions, that's an architectural change. And it will update the Copilot instructions file or Claude MD with these rules. And then every time you use AI to write code, it'll also update the architecture document with those changes and add a new revision entry. So as part of your commit now, your documentation is updated. Because what's the one reason, or not one reason, but what's one of the main reasons people won't write comments in their code? Starts with S, ends with E. Stale comments. I don't write comments. My code is self-explanatory. Well, how do you know it's self-explanatory? You've never had to maintain your own, like somebody else's code, I guess. Huh? AI. Mm-hmm. Yes. Sanity check. Yep. Yep. Right. And it'll use it as context for the code that's surrounding it, right? So the comment was the comments are actually used as context, and also it'll tell you, hey, the code around this comment doesn't do what the comment says. So comments are very helpful, and you really have no excuse now not to comment because the AI can update the comments for you as well. It's the one thing you don't like to do. It can do it for you. Let it do it. As long as it's right. As long as it's right. Now, What did this build? I'll show you. Oop, there we go. So it built this document for me. Now you might notice, and I'll get into this later. You see the name of the model? Anyone notice? Quen 3.6. That is an open model. So this entire document was generated in about a minute from my local AI server. Not on this machine, but at my home. Let's see, do I have that connection open still? Here you go. I'll show everyone that later. But there you go, 96 gigs of unified memory, and it built this for me. So if we take a look at the preview, I'll just open this in the browser. You can see it built this document for me. So it auto-detected the patterns and technologies used, figured out the data model details, built the entity relationship diagram. Doesn't that look nice? That's a mermaid diagram. Even has the one to many. Is that what that is? I don't remember what the what are those called? I'm blanking. Anyway, the relationship notation. There's a name for them, and I'm blanking on. I had it break down how authentication works, how the authentication flow works. Another mermaid diagram. Anyone like mermaid diagrams yet? Yeah. When? It depends on the model. Depending on the model you use, you'll get different results. How to get started. So how would I start using this as a developer? Key architectural takeaways, the glossary, important terms, and then, of course, the revision history. Kind of cool, huh? That one prompt created all that documentation around a minute, maybe 2 minutes. Neat. Uh, Initially it did. It asked me what version of like entity framework are you using? And I'm like, I don't know. I just wrote, figure it out for yourself. And so like, what versions of NuGet packages are you using? I said, look at the NuGet package versions. It's all there for you. And so it went and did the work. It was funny. It's like, this is why I'm having you write it. Go do the work. Anyway, lots of fun. Anyway, getting back to my presentation. So, pretty cool though. That I just released that today, so our team could use it. And now I'm going to add that architectural document so they can see how it works. And that's something that normally I'm too busy at the end of the day to go write that. God forbid I needed to add diagrams. This, it did it in a couple minutes with a reusable prompt. And I use that all the time. Massive amount of productivity on the increase side. And there's really no code. Now, the other thing, and I think you already know this, so I'll skim over it a bit. Other things that AI is incredibly useful for, if you're not using it inside the IDE, is asking questions about the code base. So if you're using ChatGPT, you're not going to get answers about your code base. But if you're using like Copilot or a local model and you're using Continue or Copilot still, or using Claude Code, etc., when it's built into the IDE, it has the context of the code. And you can say, what does this function do? How does this function store its data? How does the authentication flow work? Tell me where this issue might occur. So you can be much more interrogative about your code because it has all that context, and that's where that RAG stuff can come in handy. So you get natural language responses, basically. Now, you can also tell, like I said, how you could educate me on what I don't understand. But at the end of the day, any code that you write, any architecture documentation that you build, if it's wrong, whose fault is it? It's yours. Yeah.
Mhm. Didn't say that the same one is next time. Maybe it was someone else. Or another one. Implementation leaker.
You mean if they use the same prompt? Oh, like if I use Claude code instead of GPT, they'll be effectively the same. It won't be exactly the same. Like I found like the anthropic models like Sonnet and uh Opus, they're friendlier in their wording, whereas in my prompt I don't tell it which model to use. I choose which model runs the prompt.
How does anyone else notice each model you use?
Oh, it doesn't matter. No. No, because the instructions say update this document anytime there's a non-trivial change. And it knows based on how the document's formatted that it's an architectural document.
Yeah.
So the wording might be a little different.
Important always connection. Falsification, simulation. If it changed, it will be upgraded.
I'm not sure what you're asking.
Mechanism for user to access the database. Model one, it can change.
Oh yeah.
Instead of
Well, yeah, but you're only updating that one part of the document. It doesn't rewrite the document every time. So if you changed one, let's say you changed your authentication to support two-factor authentication, it would add a new section to the document or update the authentication part, and then maybe update the table of contents. But it wouldn't like trash the whole document and rewrite it from scratch. Yeah, just like it edits your code. It's really no different than editing code, except instead of editing code, it's editing, you know, a formal document. It doesn't care though. I mean, it's just it'd be interesting to see what would happen if the two were kind of mixed together. But that would be code that would never compile. So I guess that wouldn't matter. So yeah, does that answer your question? Okay. So about accountability though, only the human can get fired. So regardless of how great that prompt is or was, uh, or any code that you write, or anything that you take out of Chat GPT and copy and paste into your code, just like when the days of Stack Overflow, you're accountable to what you checked in. So don't use AI blindly. That's why you have to look at it as a partner. Like I did mention, like you can't treat it like an intern. An intern has accountability. They're a living, breathing intern. At least you hope so. Don't want to be working with a corpse. You got to be really careful. So this is something that I have noticed more and more so is code coming through in a pull request, and people don't understand what everything does. So be careful, because it's easy to just let the AI write something and it superficially looks good, because at the end of the day, you're smart but tired, got a massive pull request, and you're like, it works. I'll just check it in and let someone else review it because it worked. Did you just check in something you don't understand? If AI didn't do it and you let someone else write the code and check it in under your name and it brought down production, who gets fired? Or at least who gets in trouble? And if you got in trouble and they said, what does this code do? Why does it do this? Your answer can't be, I don't know, I didn't write it. And I'm finding accountability less and less. Less and less. So you got to keep, if you're helping manage teams or you're on a team and you see code come in that clearly didn't get fully reviewed by whoever checked it in, kindly call it out. Go, can you explain to me what these do? Okay. If they can't answer, go, I need you to go review that and just reject the PR. Because otherwise you're taking accountability. And the problem is only going to expand because it's easy to get lazy when a lot of the work gets done for you. So how can you, let's see. Boop, 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 boop. Oh, some of these I already covered. This is my problem with doing presentations. I talk ahead of myself. A couple skills that you should definitely work on, especially if you're getting new to using IDEs for the AI development instead of the copy and pasting of ChatGPT stuff or out of Copilot in Windows or whatever you look at online or whatever. Get really good at prompting. A really good prompt for a very specific item will help you tremendously. Think of a prompt as if you're having a conversation with someone you are paying to develop. If you gave them a one-sentence description, would you expect great results? But if you gave them a specification and then went through a planning process with them, would you feel much more confident? You would. Take advantage of those features. Take advantage of a good prompt. Take advantage of the planning processes that are built into IDEs now. Go through the plan before the execution, and you'll get a much better result. And you'll better understand what the result is, what that output that you get. Because if you just give it like a 3-sentence or a 1-sentence prompt, and you go and get 20 files out of it, do you really understand what it did? Like it has authentication, but you never said how login should work. So how does login work? Now you got to go read through the code. That had you just planned it and specified it ahead of time, you could say, I wanted a traditional username and password login with a database back store for the back. Cool. And now you can glance through that code and see that that's what it did. Otherwise, you have to deep dive into what it is. And that's a lot of work. I have found my cognitive load of the pull requests that I get when someone has agentically developed a feature and they send me that, like, it might be 12 files, it might be 80 files, it might be 100 files. And they're like, all right, I'm done. It's 5 o'clock. And I'm like, dude, I'm not looking at this. It's 5 o'clock. I can't look through 100 files. It might take me the entire following day. just to get my head around it. It's tough. But if they showed me like their plan ahead of time, that might be helpful. Copy and paste the plan into the PR details. Yeah. Well, I have done that. I have like if it's in a language that I don't know, especially with like GitHub Copilot, I'll review it for things that like just being an architect, just don't pass the smell test for me. But then I'll click have Copilot also do a review because Copilot knows what to look for. Yep. Oh, the Copilot reviews are wonderful. I have found on a number of occasions, I don't have a percentage yet, but on a number of occasions, it has called things out that are not true. It's like, this is a problem. This will be an issue, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no, you're wrong. I don't know where you're getting this. And I can't argue with it. It's just a comment, you know? So whatever you do, don't go and click let Copilot fix it on everything. Look at what it's suggesting. If it doesn't make sense, don't fix it or go find someone else. Don't let Copilot fix it. I have seen that break so much stuff. And it sometimes over fixes it. Like it, yeah, like using a nuclear bomb to swat a fly. Yeah, it's like, what are you doing? Why? I might be exaggerating. Uh, the other item is Copilot instructions, Claude MD, whatever it is. I think, like, depending on the service you use, they have some sort of markdown file that you can use to store instructions. You can update those yourself. So if there's certain coding standards you follow, variable naming techniques, you always want an adversarial review of your code, put those in there. Other items like don't commit automatically. Sometimes things commit automatically. Add something in there. It says you must have my approval before you commit. Important stuff. Again, it's a partner. And sometimes you have to correct what your partner's doing. Sometimes your partner will correct you. That's okay. I have made mistakes before. Oh, another one. If AI will take longer to do it, or it's a trivial fix, do it yourself. Do it yourself. Yeah. I've seen people. This is an example. This fictional person or people. I want you to move these files out of this folder and put it into a different folder. And I watched on the screen as they said, take all the files in this folder and put them into I'm like, no. Why are we going to go and spend any tokens on something that we can open File Explorer? It's an approach. I mean, I get it. But it goes to show you how quickly AI is becoming a bit of a crutch. And when you don't understand fully how much you're spending, because what's a token? Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Your two files very often, but it's not as easy as just copying file from one to another. I mean, it depends on the
Right.
contents of the file. Just lazy. It's a lot easier to automate tasks now.
It really is. Right.
Yeah, you know,
Right. And that's a great point. You could have AI automate the work, or you could have AI write a script to automate the work. That's a great call out. Or write an application. If it happens all the time, write an application, it does it. Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. There we go. I'm not going to get into agents, but agents are pretty cool. Although I'm just getting into them. I'm not going to say I understand, or not say I don't understand agents, but I don't really use agents. To me, they're kind of like fancy prompts with parameters. So I find myself not using them. And then I find other people going, why aren't you using them? I'm like, I don't know. It's not how I don't split up my tasks that way. Like having things, oh yeah, but you could have it, work on like all these things all at once. Yeah, you can spin up a, yeah, yeah, like do all this, you can do all this stuff all at the same time. You have like spin up an agent that goes and does the work. Okay, sub agent. Sub agent's still an agent, but I'm like, I think I'm averse to it because of the cognitive load of what the results are that I'm gonna have to review. And I've seen more and more articles now of companies that go, "Oh, we do everything with AI, and we just let it push to production. And then if it has a problem, we'll just tweak our how we're our agents or our prompt or whatever whatever our well I'm gonna say our effective linting mechanism. It's not linting, I get it, but prior to production that gates it. We'll make it detect it better next time. I'm like, sometimes you don't get a second chance in production. I don't understand that. That that mentality of like go to production. Well, don't worry. We have filters. I go, yeah, but there's no human. I'm not saying humans are the best at everything, but I I kind of want someone I can fire. You know, I do. I want like for contract work, if someone's painting my home, I could I paint my home myself? Sure. But I want someone that I can sue. And I can't sue me.
Yeah, but they're
You know?
not having like regulatory requirements. The big places that have those strict requirements, they'll never do it.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I'm seeing it more and more of just stuff. The accountability going away. Like, don't worry, that AI will handle it. I'm like, why do you keep thinking that AI is like this some autonomous thing that is insanely that cares about what you're shipping? It doesn't. It's a model. It's a statistical model. And if you don't hit the right probability, that gets through the gate. Or if you do hit the right probability, it gets through the gate.
It's on the internet. It's gotta be true.
Yeah, it's on the internet. It must be true. So, but now, I mean, we've been really kind of like going, we've been using, AI a hell of a lot more, right? Over the past year. Yeah, we probably all ramped up, earlier last year, mid last year, and now we're hooked. Who here doesn't use AI in their day-to-day dev? Right. And I'm sure no one online is raising their hand for that either. I joked about this over a year ago that it's like a drug and your first hit is free. And right now it's cheap, but that addiction is going to get expensive because they're selling it. Forget the drug dealer metaphor is once you're hooked, you've got to have it. Better that you're high than going through withdrawal. And we won't get into how mean that sounds. So leave it be. Feel free to send me hate messages. I don't mean it in a mean way. The point is that we're the addicts now. And the companies are addicts. How many people here have heard of people using the most expensive model by default every day? Yes. Oh, and what's it called? We have the new term now is maxing, right? Maxing of anything. And then they became that like a year and a half ago at high schools they had cent maxing. Or maybe no, it was 3 years ago. They had scent maxing, which is you bought perfume and cologne and you scent maxed. And then they got looks maxing, became a thing. And then token maxing. The geeks, the nerds, the devs, we all got in on it, Who knows, right? Uh yeah, I'm like, hold up. Eventually, Anthropic, OpenAI, Microsoft, they're building these massive data centers. Amazing technology to bring costs down, but still, they're selling all this stuff to you below cost. It's a very traditional Silicon Valley thing to do. You hand it out free in the beginning, and then you start charging for it once people are using it. It's the way of the world. And here we are, suddenly, the costs have started, especially as we're getting closer and closer IPOs. And everyone, I know Altman and whoever the guy running Anthropic, I blank on his name, they all want to be the first trillionaire. I'm positive about this. That's all they care about. They want to be the first trillionaires, which is probably why Elon is so happy that he's getting the first IPO, that he might be the world's first trillionaire. Probably be quickly surpassed by Altman. But here's the thing. Now the costs reflect profitability instead of customer acquisition. Look at Microsoft's move of switching to AI credits. I can show you, well, I'm not going to show you, but I saw, we compared using PRUs to the new model, 5x increase. 5x! For like $900 a month to $5,000 a month, thereabouts.
Analysis of the garden last month.
Yeah.
It gave us a here's how many.
Yeah, there was a tool, which is, and I credit Microsoft for that.
Yeah.
Giving a tool to let you know, here's how much this is going to cost you when we bring all of your addicts out into the open.
So, everybody, $40 per user for the month. And everybody within, there was a little bit of a spread, but I think that was 1,000 credits or 1,000.
Yeah.
And we did a quick analysis of like how many AI credits per PRU.
Yeah.
And it went from some people were using 2 AI credits per PRU up to 93 AI credits per PRU.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
a huge spread.
It's a massive amount. And the problem is it's silly money. It's funny money. No one knows what an AI credit is or a token. I mean, from the LLM perspective, yes, you know what a token is. But I mean, just by the show of hands in the beginning, and we're all smart people, no one knew what a token was. So I can't imagine being a CFO today. Has everyone heard about Uber and what happened to them? They went through their entire like $3.4 billion software development budget in 1 quarter due to credit cost. Some dollars in tokens. It's insane. What do? Stop developing? And you can't go for 3.4 billion. I want to know what they've built. Well, but this is what happens when you're token maxing. When you're token maxing, it's like, I don't care. I'll use frontier models for everything. I got to change some CSS. So I want to change white to black. Instead of doing it myself, I'm going to go and say, in this file, change white to black. Ask me any questions you have. And it's like, well, do you want me to use FFF and 000, or do you want to use the values of white and black? More tokens used. Do whatever best practices are. Check with this website. You change 2 lines, and it costs you, $1.
So is Uber one of the ones with the leaderboard?
I don't know, but I've heard of a lot of companies with leaderboards.
Yeah.
And now, Amazon was one, yeah. The number of articles I read about, the companies that they don't care, like they don't care at all about the spending. I'm like, I don't get it. I have never once worked for a company that didn't care about spending. Blows me away. Anyway,
That's why you use the customer's AI.
that's why you use the customer's AI. Yeah. That's, hey, so
somebody who's.
well, we're doing more and more work now. Well, they're paying for the tools, but they want you to use it responsibly. I mean, it's like, yeah, but this is part of the problem. This is kids playing with drugs. Man, I like being high all the time, but what do you mean my grades are being affected? There's a price to being addicted, quite in this case, quite literally. So, what we've been looking at, and this is a big deal now, is looking at local model. We're running the models locally. Now, I'd say a year ago, you could get, Apple's got like the M whatever powered Max. But if you really wanted performance, you went with like an NVIDIA card. And then everybody started wanting the video cards, including the data centers. So when you can't push out, the equipment fast enough, for demand, and the supply is low, what happens to prices? Economics 101, they go up. Haven't anyone here bought a computer lately? I'm glad I bought this machine in like November of last year, because just a few more months later, this machine was $1,000 more. $1,000. It's yeah. Yeah, I had to build a server because it's no longer supported. Because it was running Windows 10, and now I'm running Windows 11 on it. So I built a whole new machine. The GPU, because I wanted to use it for AI, it was a 5070 Ti. It was $1,000. The 32 gigs of RAM was like 400 or 500 of the processor was effectively free. The processor used to be the most expensive thing. Yeah. So anyway, I bought I wanted to run local LLMs because I saw the AI credits coming through, and I like working on a lot of personal projects because I don't get to tap into our company bank account and just buy any number of tokens that I want if I'm working on a personal project. And I'm like, well, I can't afford, $1,000 a month in credit suddenly versus like, $100. So what do I do? Well, I'll try the local model thing. And I tried the 5070. From what I was researching using Copilot, it said these are the models you could run, etc. And I learned a lot. I got the 5070 Ti. I hooked everything up. It just wasn't enough VRAM. It was fast, but it wasn't enough video memory. And in my talk that I'll do in a few months, I'll talk more about kind of like more of the technical details of that, like what you have to think about when it comes to hosting these models. So that didn't work out. But I kept the server. Boy, is my kid pissed. He was like, let me keep the 5070. I go, like, no, I'm not giving you the 5070. I gotta go get my $1,000 back because there's $1,000 for a server. I'm not gonna server doesn't need to have a 5070 Ti in it. So anyway, then I started hearing about I was like, we played around the M5, we have a M4 Ultra, I think, or is it an M3 Max? It might be an M3 Ultra. Anyway, at the office we've got it's 96 gigs of RAM, and we put Olama on it, and it flew. It was as fast as like a GPU, like a dedicated GPU. Probably not, but it was very reasonable. I mean, like the tokens were flying by. Seemed fast enough to me. Yeah. Now that is like a $4,000 machine. At the time, it was probably like $2,500, but these days it'd be $4,000 to $5,000, I'm sure. But it did the work with aplomb. It was great. Right out of the box. So I'm like, oh, well, that's cool. Buying a 96 or 128 gig Mac, M4 Ultra or whatever, not in my budget right now. They're very expensive right now. And to get a graphics card with that kind of memory, you're looking at 40 grand. You know, like you're looking at the data center level stuff at that point. So AMD has a platform called Strix Halo. Anyone here heard of Strix Halo? Same effective unified memory architecture that the Mac has. That's what makes it so the Mac so cool is that it comes with 96 gigabytes of RAM or 64 gigabytes of RAM, but you can shift what memory is allocated for video memory versus system memory. And it can access it all at the same speed. Now, it's not like the terabit a second or whatever that it's a multiplier slower, like 4x slower than a GPU. But a GPU is very expensive, fast memory. You don't actually need that performance to have acceptable local model performance. So you get very usable speeds locally. And the open models are actually, A, they're free. B, the only thing you pay for is the computer. And then it's just electricity. So this is where the Strix Halo came in. I bought from Walmart.com for $2,300. I bought the AMD AI Max Plus 395 with 96 gigabytes of memory. And it arrived 2 days later and allocated 48 gigabytes of video memory. And I was able to load practically any model I wanted. Realistically, I could load pretty much anything. 100 billion parameter models? No, but that's not what you're running locally. Yeah, and you don't want all those parameters. You got once you start learning about all these things, oh my gosh, you learn bigger is definitely not better. Which is the opposite way of thinking when you think performance. And I'll get into it later. Oh my gosh, just how to read the models and all this stuff. One guy at our office, he knows a ton more about this than I do. And like when he starts talking about all these different things, I'm like, I'm just starting to learn all these different parts, like temperature, top K, top P, mixture of experts, the number of parameters, the quantization level, and how all those balance out. Yeah. Oh my gosh. But the good news is you can run a local model point and click with Olama and you're done. And you just point like VS Code to it, and it starts using it. No configuration really, other than allow Olama to talk to the network. That's how cool it is. Now, you still have issues where the local models are not a first-class citizen. So like VS Code, this is cool. GitHub Copilot has native support for letting you use local models. It's very cool. But you don't get all the cool harness features, like the really cool planning capabilities and everything. Those only work with the models you pay for, even though I don't think there's any reason it shouldn't work with the local models other than Microsoft can charge for it. But at Build, who here is watching Build? Okay, we got one person watching Build. Who doesn't know what Build is? Okay, so then I don't understand why you're not watching Build. But in Build, they're talking about local support. And in the first half of the keynote, what did Microsoft announce? The Surface Ultra, which has the new NVIDIA CPU. So it's an ARM CPU with NVIDIA RTX and what is it? Is it the Blackwell? Is it Blackwell? Gracewell? I'm blanking on the exact name of it. Anyway, their AI and processing cores. It's Blackwell, but it's like Grace something. I don't remember what it is. And it's all built into the same CPUs, kind of like what AMD did. It's unified memory. So you basically have a GPU from NVIDIA with unified memory on the local machine. So you can run local models with NVIDIA's tech right there locally on your machine. And one of the benefits of that, of course, we were talking about this earlier, what happens when you can't allow your code to go off to the cloud? If there's regulations, your code has, that's maybe there's PII, etc. That can't go off to the cloud to be processed. Otherwise, you're exposing users' PII. So you have to do that AI work locally. This lets you do that. They also announced another box called the Surface RTX Spark. A little box about this big. Similar processor structure, kind of like a Mac Mini or a Mac Studio. Those are the ones that are being sold right now, with 1,000 vents, because it has it's 1,000 petaflops, or it's a petaflop or whatever. I think it's a petaflop of processing power in this thing for running local models. So obviously Microsoft's investing in the hardware to make running local models a first-class thing to do. Now I'm hoping that Visual Studio and VS Code catch up. Because first, VS Code supports local models, but not with all the features. VS Code doesn't support local models at all, even though it has GitHub Copilot. And the extensions that I found for like running, when you're running an LLM, the LLM itself is effectively just data. You really need the harness to communicate with the LLM and tie all the answers together, do all the planning, etc. So all those like whack commands that you've got that let you do cool things with GitHub or Claude, etc. That's all the harness. That's not the model. The model doesn't matter. The model's the data. So I'm hoping that Microsoft finally makes local models a first-class citizen inside of their development environments that we use every day. And it looks like they're running in that direction. But they didn't mention it much at all, other than one Olama presentation and then announcing the hardware. That's kind of it. So I'm thinking we're going to have to wait until later this year and see once that hardware is out, if that's when like a new Visual Studio and VS Code release will come out that really let you take advantage of this hardware. But like I said, let me see. Yeah, I went and there it is. That's the Strix Halo. You know, 48 gigs of RAM. If you take a look at the GPU, there you go. It's got 48 gigs. So if I wanted to, let's say, oh, I don't know. Thinking of something I could add to this document if I wanted to. Am I connected? Let's see.
Triggered all, pre-commit triggered always, update document.
I'm trying to think of like a code change I might be able to do. Let's see. Modify dashboard, right? Oh, I know what. For the reports we're running, cache the values for up to 1 minute. Or for 1 minute. Let's see. I haven't tried this. Or I'll say 5 minutes. Unless the backfill function is used. I know this isn't a great prompt, but I'm just checking. And then let me see, am I connected to my VPN? It says I am. So we'll see. So in this case, it's using Qwen 3.6 latest. You all see that? All right. And then we'll see if I'm connected. That works. So we'll find out. There we go. So now it's loaded the model. And if I ask Olama, you'll see the size of the model is 24 gigs. That's 100% running on the GPU. So I get 100% acceleration. And you can kind of tell, like as it's thinking and sending results back, you can see the drops. So you see it's analyzing. Now, just so you know, this is just something I'm taking a look at. I don't know how well this will work. Yeah. Yeah, it fully loaded the model into memory. Yeah, I mean you've got also the context memory, so in this case you can see the context is 65,000 65536. So that uses a significant amount of memory. The model may only need, who knows, like 11 gigs, but then you need another 10 gigs for the context. Oh, I set that. That's 65. No, that's just the context window size. So that's the amount of data. That's basically its memory, its working memory. And then anything that's outside of that gets forgotten. Yeah. So that's 64,000 tokens. There you go. Let me look at the models and how the sync service is used to understand the full picture. So it's read models, which reviewed 4 files, read the leaderboard table. Yeah. Keep in mind, this is running over Wi-Fi, my VPN, you know, uh, and there, dashboard KPI cards, dashboard.razor, read the usage sync service. So it knows which files it's supposed to look at. Analyzing. All right. Like, I mean, obviously when you see that coming across, that's not just some animation. That's tokens coming back. So when you see that broken out, I used to think that was just kind of like a cool thing that, I'm like, it must come back a lot faster than that. Now I have a clear picture. Let me implement 5-minute caching on dashboard queries with cache and validation during. See how it just paused? So it's getting, more information, thinking hard, as you can tell.
Like the code models, like codecs or the Anthropic models.
Oh yeah.
So is this like, do you notice that this model was like a lot hallucinates more and more? No?
No, you start learning uh like the trained models. Like you can see it's already edited code for me. The models that have gone through the additional training, that's where you'll see instruct at the end of them, hallucinate a lot less. And depending on how you set up like temperature and how many times it um like the top K and the top P was like top probability and top chunks to look at, the less it'll hallucinate. Yeah. So there's settings you can use to prevent hallucination. Yeah. Accidentally duplicate sync window. Yep. Kind of cool, right? I mean, this is all running on my network at home. I'm not paying anything extra. You can see, I mean, I can choose Copilot. Yeah, and there's GPT, by the way, the open source one of it. Um, apparently I can't hit Opus 4.7, but that's okay. I generally stayed away from Opus unless I was writing really involved documentation. Um, but you can see it's doing all this work, and I'm just paying for what's sitting over at home. By the way, the box is this big. It's this thick. Yeah, actually, let me see if I can um here, I'll show you that's what it looks like. Yeah. Oh, look, the 96 gig version is out of stock now. Probably people noticed it was a good deal. But yeah, that little thing is doing all of this. The thing's whisper quiet. You can tell when it loads the model though. You hear as it spins up the fans, as it's suddenly trying to transfer, and 12 gigabytes a second or something crazy, from the solid state. Yeah, there you go. Changes made. Okay, I did all this work. And then I can look at the changes that were made. You can see program.cs. Okay, a new to add memory cache. Okay. Um, Now I'm going to say update architecture.md with what we've learned. All right, because always update your documentation. Analyzing, and you'll be able to see it thinking again. Kind of cool watching it think. I wrote my own little harness adapter, but it doesn't work as well. But it would show tokens And so you could see the tokens flying by. And anytime you spent more than 500 tokens, it did a cash register sound. It goes ching. So you kind of see it, kind of breaking things apart, analyzing. But this is it's called the buy once, cry once approach. Anyone heard of this? This is a kind of an Apple thing. It's when the memory is soldered onto the board. So once you bought it, you're stuck with it. Now, unlike Apple, on this thing, this has two M2 SSD slots. So I could add another solid state drive if I want. So I could expand to have more space for models. But I mean, I'm not even using half the drive because the models are only, like a few gigabytes to, a few dozen gigabytes. So you can store a lot of models on a terabyte. Apparently it's still thinking. We'll see how well it does. Sometimes it's like, no, I got no response. It's not perfect. This is why I think it needs to be more of a first-class citizen. Like, show me how many tokens are being used. Something, Yeah, so you try again. Your request failed. The response is too long. That's because my context size is too big or too small. Yeah.
What?
But what I could, well, here, hold on. I'll just say update architecture with what we've learned there. Then it won't have all that memory to go with it. What? I can do that as long as my context window doesn't get exceeded. And that's where you start running into issues. I think if we had a better support in the harness, I think it would handle it better, just like the cloud models can. Now, the cloud models have gobs and gobs and gobs of memory and can do like 256,000 tokens, a million tokens, etc., without skipping a beat. You can't do that on consumer hardware. He's you can't afford it. I mean, if you're Elon Musk, right, you could have your own little data center at home, and who cares? 40 grand doesn't matter when you make that much back in interest at the end of the day. It's just, who cares, right? But for us mere mortals, this is still very useful. And like, if I run into something, there you go. If I run into something that I just don't have the local muscle for, I can go use the cloud for that. Okay, I burned some tokens, and now I can go back to the local to keep doing the work. If I'm running what?
Machines like this and assign them to clouds and use it on-prem.
So yeah, that's a good question. I was just checking to see if there were any questions. Real quick. Sorry if I haven't been looking. It's just me. There we go. Careful on the diagrams. Yeah, that's true. It won't do it all. I'm not claiming it does everything. Only a Sith deals in absolutes. Okay. I got some laughs out of that. I appreciate that. So when it comes to is there value? Do companies see value in running this locally? 100% they do. Number one, I'll give you an example, is Eli Lilly. They do a massive amount of AI inference. But they can't send that data to the cloud. It's pharmaceutical data, PII, results, patentable research. Letting that stuff go off to the cloud and just hoping no one is listening in, and just the fact alone that you'd be violating, who knows what regulations, and there's plenty of regulators that would love to take money out of their pockets. Insert any company here. They run a lot of local models. Yeah. I know that for a fact at Lilly. And then we're looking at it, just could we run something locally, like go invest in like that Surface Box and run VLLM, which is, really a server grade solution for running LLMs, but, runs on that kind of hardware, the affordable hardware, runs in Linux, etc. It's very possible to do that and share it between multiple developers. And look at the savings. Like if you have a lot of projects going on and a lot of scaffolded code needs to be written, well, especially if you're starting new projects, a lot of scaffolded code has to be written. That's a lot of tokens. That's a lot of tokens. And yeah, if that's going to cost, like, let's say, $16,000 in tokens, and you could just buy a $4,000 box, that box pays for itself quickly over time. So, and like you could say, well, couldn't you pass that cost on to the customer? I mean, yeah, I guess you could. I mean, but you can and you can't. It all depends. And the fact of the matter is, when your costs go, especially now that the costs are going up from, let's say, $700 to $900 a month to $5,000 a month, that's someone's salary. It's plain and simple. So unless the amount of work that you do increases, unless you want to increase your pass through cost to your customer in a way that you're kind of increasing your hours in some strange way, or increasing your prices to accommodate for it, something's going to have to give, and it might be a head count. So you got to be careful. Yeah, these are real costs, and the problem is if you're not careful, the costs are a bill at the end of the month. And you don't want that. You don't want a bill to go from like $5,000 to $60,000 at the end of the month, or $1,000 to $5,000 at the end of the month. Especially if you're a startup. That extra $4,000 is part of somebody's salary. If you didn't account for it, and you're a startup, that can be a lot of money. And God forbid you have people token maxing. So I think, we did a responsible thing. We added a budget. We set a cap. And, if you hit the cap, then we'll have to figure out what to do, but it prevents you from getting the surprise. I guess you can do anything you want on your last day. When that bill comes across the CFO's desk, he's like, hey, how come our costs went up 5x and no one told me? Where does this money come from? You know how you want new laptops for all the developers? But now only half of them can get it. Now you have the problem that people might leave because they didn't get upgrade equipment. But I really want upgrade equipment. Now you got to choose your favorites. So had you just planned ahead of time? So we were planning this for a couple months, like looking at local LLMs, and then Microsoft made their announcements, and that really lit a fire. And yeah, we had to make decisions. So, see, this is other issue that I run into. Sorry, your request failed. Response too long. Yeah, this is where it actually had an answer, but there's too many tokens to send, and it has a cap. So LM Studio, this is a problem with Ollama, but LM Studio lets me change those settings so this doesn't happen. And this is part of the adventure of local models. Like, well, then take a certain amount at a time and make the changes, right? But the harness doesn't support that. But with the cloud models, it has no problem doing that sort of thing. So I don't know. But this is what one thing I'm asking Microsoft to do is treat local models as a first-class citizen. So this, at least it didn't cost me anything but my time. But it sucks when it takes like 5 minutes and goes, sorry, I can't give you the result because I have the result, but I can't send it to you because a configuration setting that the server that you're using doesn't let you change unless you manually change a model file. Yeah, it's just Olama works so well until you hit these little things, and then anyway. All right. Anyway, thank you for taking a look at the local LLM demo. I hope you guys found that interesting. So let's see. I think it's effectively it. Thank you. Did you have any questions about local models, the using AI in your everyday, etc.?
So that you can say it can be used like 2 users. 4 users, and
Yeah.
1 user, 12 gigabytes.
You can have multiple users use it at the same time. It'll only load the model into memory once. But then how that context memory is managed is where you'll run into your problems.
Second user.
Yeah, they could still make queries. Yeah. And if you have enough memory, you can load multiple models into memory. Yeah. Hmm.
You cannot say the model stay active. Because they saw it. Yeah. So
Well, the jump that you saw was the GPU processing, not the memory. So what you saw there, if you take a look here, that's the memory. That was the compute. So you can see the memory stayed the same, but it was the processing of the tokens is what was using the GPU.
okay. So if you power on the computer, it loads all your model into memory, kind of thing, ready to be used.
Yeah, if I like if I restarted it, the next time a request came in, it would load up the model that was requested and then start serving requests against it. Yes. But I mean, you can only obviously, if you have 48 gigabytes of memory, you can only load so many models, right, at a time. And you still need memory for the context window. And the bigger the context window, the more it's a significant amount of memory. It's basically a key value cache. So on this hardware, it's usually just me, using one model, maybe two. And then I'm kind of limited. Well, in the larger models, like there's much larger models, they'll use like 30 something gigs of video memory plus the context. At that point, you can only have one model in memory. Yeah. But those have a lot more parameters. They can do deeper reasoning. Uh, you can get some higher quality output. But again, more parameters doesn't mean better because it's more traversals. That's more expensive. So fewer parameters, especially for like most coding tasks, can actually be better. Yeah. I won't get into quantization and the temperature settings and all that stuff. That's for another deeper dive and showing people the different settings. And so much of this is going to change by my presentation in October or November. I don't remember which one it is. That any presentation I wrote today probably wouldn't be valid.
Difficult to connect your window in model.
Oh, you just enter a URL. Yeah, it's just like you just point to your server and you're done. Yeah, it's actually that part is actually that simple. Yeah, it's very cool. Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah. Do what with my machine on Azure?
At least AWS GPU.
It's sort of a user to use.
Oh, like, yeah, I mean, I could spin up a VM that has access to that kind of information. Or that kind of hardware. Or because I think it's not the same as like a VM. I think you can actually get actual product, at the data center that you can then use for inference, and it might be virtualized. I haven't used it to say, but I know that it's a service that's out there. It's what is that, infrastructure as a service? Not because it's not platform as a service, it's infrastructure as a service. And I haven't used it, but I know it exists. So to answer your question, no, I haven't tried it, but I'm aware that it's there. And I can tell you, I probably can't afford it for what I want to do on a daily basis. So that's one reason I bought the machine. Plus, I could write off the machine. I don't feel like writing off $12,000 a year. I'll write off $2,300.
A life of drama.
Yeah, that's why I'm not married. It's just divorces are expensive. I bought this computer and I'm getting divorced.
So, can you expand that the context window to fill all your RAM instead of like running models? Just use one model, but
Oh, yeah. So can I extend the context window to use all available memory? No. The model has its own limits for how large the context size is because it can only think about so much. Why? I don't know. I don't understand enough about it to tell you why. Like, one model supports 128,000 parameters, or not parameters, 128K of context versus a million. Like a million tokens or whatever. That's what it is. It's 128,000 tokens. Not 128K as in memory. 128,000 tokens.
Even if it's a billion tokens, there is a point where the responses get worse.
Yeah. So so yeah, you start running into issues where you'll have hallucinations more. And there's what I've learned is that, let's say you have a context window of any size, any reasonably large size. So let's say 128,000 or higher, or 64,000, that window. There's a few different ways to manage it. One is like a sliding window, which that makes sense. And then there's truncate middle, which is as you reach the ends, you truncate the middle. So just get rid of stuff in the middle. Probably don't need that anymore. It's probably already been processed. The front probably has your system prompt, or not your system prompt, but the important things that you started with. And then you obviously need the latest stuff. And as the context window gets filled more and more, it's known that the things in the middle tend to not be in as much focus. Like things that are important, if they're mentioned in the middle, will be missed. Like, don't do this, or here's an important thing to remember. If it's in the middle, it doesn't do it for whatever reason. Kind of like a kid in the middle of a TV show, and you're like, hey, and you tell them something, they're like, what? You never told me that. Yeah, they're in the middle of a TV show. Their attention is elsewhere. So anyway, yeah. Anyway, I lost the context. But you do have to be careful on how much of that memory that you fill up. And as you can see, what happened. There's funky things that happen as you hit the context window size on the server, but then also the response size. Now, I did find out, if you ever hear this temperature, that term is kind of interesting because I was wondering, you probably noticed if you ask the AI a question, it'll give you a different answer. I mean, it might be effectively the same, but it's still worded different, etc. So why is that? Well, it's because of the temperature setting. So if you set the temperature goes, for my understanding, is like 0 to 1. So if you set the temperature to 0.7, it'll be all over the place. It'll be more creative about how it responds to you, and much less predictable. And it'll be more creative. It'll be more predictable as you slide the temperature down. It's that how much variance it gives you. And if you set it to 0, which apparently is what they use for the benchmarks, you'll get the exact same result every single time. But most of them don't have it set up that way. And that's what happens when AI pays the bills. It didn't. Yeah. Oh, are we? Oh, crap. Well, I hope everyone enjoyed all that. That was a longer presentation than I expected, but I hope you got a lot out of it. I had a lot of fun. I won't ask for any more questions, but thank you very much. And I hope you join us next month. And I will post this recording.